Yeah. We get lit, we get fly, we talk stuff, we get high. But to the masses, we just a podcast called Verified. I'm your host. I'm Joe Paul. We have a very, very special guest today. But first, we are sponsored by I'm That Jew. As always, big shout out to my buddy Etan over in Israel. Make sure you check out the link in the description for all your I Am That Jew merch and stuff, which it's really, really good. They actually sent me this little chain saying I'm That Jew. I don't know if you can see it over there in YouTube world, but it is pretty good and it shines in the sun and it makes me look, kind of cool. So ordinarily I like to, highlight my guests and the different things that they've done. So rather than do that, I'm just going to give you the opportunity to brag about yourself for 15 to 20 seconds and tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Wow, that's annoying, man. All right, I'll do it. Fine. I hate talking about myself, but anyway, my name is Hillel. Originally from New York, living in Israel in the Holy Land for 30 years. I've been working in the tech ecosystem for the past 15, working with startups, companies from two guys in a garage to Google, Microsoft, Oracle, and many other larger companies. Just been kind of very fortunate to get to meet some of the most remarkable and fascinating people. I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers know that Israel is a technological superpower, leads the world in innovation. And, I just kind of accidentally found myself right in the middle of it. And so I was really living the dream, professionally speaking, and October 7th hit and that all changed. And I'm assuming we're going to get into that, but October 7th, I shut down my business and I am 100% all in on helping Israel defend the country and our just war on the internet.
I mean, I would say defend our lives practically. It's not even like defend the country. We're defending civilization, and it's a good thing that you led with exactly what you do in the tech world and how Israel is a kind of superpower of the tech world. So let's go. Let's jump right into the biggest bunch of nonsense that I've ever heard with the boycott movement and BDS, and let's do away with all products that have to do with Israel. So, all right, everyone in YouTube world, take your iPhones and throw them out the window right now. So what do you have to say about the people that, selectively choose what to boycott as long as it doesn't affect their immediate social media on their phone, which was, if anyone knows anything about tech, the most of the innovations for the iPhone, originated in Israel.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything. Like, let's just be honest. You can't do anything. You wake up in the morning, you cannot unlock your iPhone. Because when you unlock your iPhone with Face ID, that's a technology that was developed by a company called PrimeSense, an Israeli company that Apple acquired. So forget unlocking your iPhone. So you can't even start there. You can't water your garden because that's drip irrigation that was developed in the Technion in Haifa. You can't drive to work because you got no GPS because Waze was obviously invented in Israel. You can't use your Windows machine because it's Intel inside. Where's Intel? It's in Israel. You can't use, Google because when you Google something and you make a typo and it says, did you mean this? That's built in Israel. You can't use Microsoft products. That's all developed in Herzliya. I mean, the list just goes on and on. There's basically nothing that you can do. You can't use Apple products, can't use Windows products. You can't use Android. You can't use iPhone. There's nothing that you can do in the modern world without using Israeli products. So by all means, boycott us, but good luck living in the Stone Ages.
There you go. All right, we're gonna wrap up. I've been Joe Paul. This is the Verified Podcast. And, that was excellent. I mean, I have this argument with people all the time about how silly that the movement actually. It's not even silly. It's sinister because it's the only Jewish state in the entire universe, and to basically just boycott just one state for just being and existing is the most racist thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. So
yeah, I mean, these guys, these BDS holes, as I like to call them, they're I mean, you got to laugh because you see these BDS websites and you see in the top corner powered by Wix, an Israeli company, right? So it's really utterly ridiculous that they like to pretend that they're boycotting Israeli businesses. They go and they boycott Starbucks. Starbucks not even in Israel. Good. Right. If you want to boycott Israel, by all means, but let's at least be honest about it. Have some integrity. Boycott all Israeli products. And that's it. You can't do it. It's impossible. You can't live.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we've I don't know, past I don't know what kind of point it is, but we've passed the point of almost like no return where a lot of these people that are protesting, I feel like are so far gone that there is almost no coming back. I mean, we can literally take a bat with all the facts and smash them right in the face. And for some reason, everything that we say is Israeli propaganda or it's made up or it's a farce or it's something that the the deep state wants you to believe, because it's a sinister plot, because Israel takes over the entire universe. And that's another thing. It's like, if the Jews ran everything, do you really think we would be letting this go on right now? If Jews ran the media, do you really think we would be letting ourselves get fucking pummeled on the internet day in and day out, every single day? I can only imagine how many Israeli activists, or Jewish, I like to call them freedom fighters, are going to suffer from PTSD, because every morning when I open my phone, it's just like death threat, death threat, death threat, Nazi this, Nazi that, colonizer, blah 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 blah, and it's
The lies
it's
are
a bit,
endless, my friend. The lies are
it's a
endless.
bit much.
Yeah,
What,
listen.
how did we get here?
Let's just break this down. I mean, I could go on for literally an hour listing the lies and the paradoxes and the hypocrisy in the pro-Palestinian narrative, but let's just ask one basic question. Really basic question. Israel's committing genocide in Gaza? Okay, great. Now tell me why Israel's not bombing Gaza from the air. Why is Israel sending in its boys? I just came this second, right now, 10 minutes ago, from the house of the parents of a fallen soldier, my neighbor, who died on Sabbath in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, with an armored vehicle that was detonated by a massive, anti-tank missile. Why was he in Gaza?
Sorry, man.
Thank you. Why was he in Gaza? If we're committing genocide, let's just carpet bomb the place, kill them all. Clearly, we're not doing that. So explain to me how you can say that we're committing genocide when we're losing our soldiers. And that's just, again, one lie. But let's go even deeper, right? Let's go to the beginning. Let's go to fundamentals here, okay? 1964, Yasser Arafat, a well-known terrorist and murderer, declares the establishment of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And in their charter, they call for the murder of all Jews. What were they liberating? Because there was no quote-unquote occupation in 1964. It started in 1967, they're what they call occupation. So kindly tell me what he was liberating in 1964. Why was there terror against Jews before there was any occupation? So you're going to say, okay, fine. It wasn't the occupation. It was the Nakba, what they call the Nakba. In 1948, Arabs were kicked out of their homes. Okay, first of all,
but there's one thing that shatters that entire thing, and I've been saying this since the start, and I've watched a couple of your interviews. If it was really about occupation, explain Hebron.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, why was there a Hebron? If this is all because of occupation,
yeah,
explain the 1929 Hebron massacre, and don't say that the influx of Jews into the land of so-called Palestine back then was such a great burden on the Arabs of Palestine that they needed to attack. This is all about fundamentally indoctrinated ideologies, which were started even in the late 19th century. I said the people like to start this war at like they'll cherry pick and say in 1947 when the partition, or 1948 when Israel declared its independence. Maybe they'll start at the Arab Revolt, from 36 to 39. But I believe that this started in 1880. So there's a fundamentalist ideology that was started way before the identity of the so-called Palestinians even was invented, and that started with Rashid Rida, who was the teacher of Haj Amin al-Husseini, and the ideology in which they put forth, and they're the ones that sparked the kind of idea of who the Jews actually are in their minds, not who they actually are in reality. It is a very, very big difference.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you said it, but if you're going to blame the occupation, then why was there terror before the occupation? If you're going to tell me it's because of the Nakba in 1948, which let's just say what it was, because there should be no mistake. Israel was given a state. The Arabs were given a state. Israel accepted. The Arabs rejected. The entire Arab world decided to attack Israel, and they told the quote-unquote Palestinians, they weren't Palestinians yet, the Arabs living in the land of Palestine, and again, we'll talk about that in a second, to leave their homes because they're about to attack and massacre all the Jews, and they'll be allowed back after the war. The only problem was that they lost. And they continued to attack Israel, and they lost. And then they continued, and they lost. So, it's the way any country was established. You attack someone, you lose in the war, it's game over. Why are we even talking about this? But I got to tell you that this morning, I tweeted a newspaper article that literally says, the Arabs invade Palestine. Like, Dude, Golda Meir had a Palestinian birth certificate. The Palestinians were the Jews living in the land of Israel before the establishment of the state of Israel. This land was called Palestine. There was no Arab-Palestinian state ever in the history of the world. And if that offends anyone listening, then kindly tell me when this state was established, what the national anthem was, and what currency they used. And don't bother Googling it, because you'll never find it, because it never existed.
Oh, they took it out of Google because this is just a way to silence the Palestinian voice, right. And they've been telling a full side of history for years, and this is what really happened, and this is right. The shit that I deal with day in and day out, and I find that most debates, and obviously I'm a very loudmouth type of Jew, and I don't stay silent for nothing, so I find that
shout out to Eitan, by the way, we love Eitan.
Eitan, love you, buddy, and send me more merch. The way that these debates are usually structured, it's like nothing can ever get done because you spend most of the time debunking their falsehoods or their narratives or their lies and explaining exactly what happened here, and you're justifying it with validating sources, and they always quote the most let's jump into it. What do you think of Norman Finkelstein, Noam Chomsky, and Mark Lamont Hill?
First of all, in every generation, we had the self-hating Jews. Let's just say that as it is. In every generation, we had the Kapos in Germany. We had them in Egypt. In ancient Egypt, 80% of the Jews stayed back, man. There were actual Jews who were whipping other Jews as slaves. So we always had this. And so, Finkelstein and Chomsky, self-hating Jews, this is not a new phenomenon. And, they are the worst of the worst. There doesn't get, as far as I'm concerned, these guys are worse than actual Hamas. I mean that. They are the worst of the worst. But, again, all of these guys, Hill and all these guys, it's just a sophisticated mask for anti-Semitism. And every generation, it comes at us and they come up with a new excuse. Oh, we hate you because you don't have a country. Now we hate you because you have a country. We hate you because you're not white enough. Now we hate you because you're too white. There's no explanation. It's just Jew hatred. It's good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. And all they're doing right now is trying to use some sophisticated mask and call it anti-Zionism. But since October 7th, that mask has been lifted and the charade is over. And we know these people are just flaming anti-Semites who just have a deep-seated hatred of Jews, period, full stop. Okay,
so which brings me to my next point. So the stuff that they teach to their students or to their audience or to their base, I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a thing called the Byrne trial. It was in the early 30s. It was like the first case where basically an organization was brought up on charges for disseminating anti-Semitic material and basically causing a big portion of what later came to become the Holocaust, and they actually won based on the precedence of this information. And I believe it was on the book called the Elders of Zionism, or the Elders of Zion. If I'm not getting it correctly, I'm sorry. Everyone, look it up and do your own research because I'm only one person. But I feel like that would actually create the legal precedent that's needed now to basically to stop this dissemination of all of this, anti-Israel, anti-Jew, anti-Zionism rhetoric, which is basically, it's just throwing fuel onto the fire. And if you're spreading falsehoods or false propaganda, it's one thing to state an opinion, but to be teaching a course or a class or to document that in a book, which is then published, it's like, do we go after the publisher? Do we go after the author? Do we go after the institution? Do we go after everyone? Is this one big, gigantic RICO case? Hello, get us the fuck out of here. How do we do this?
It's funny because the people that say I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-Zionist, that might be the most
anti-Semitic thing in the world.
Ridiculous statement a person can make. That is, Zionism is as core to Judaism as the Vatican is to Christianity and Mecca is to Islam. Like you can't separate Zion, aka Jerusalem, from Israel and from the Jewish people. It's literally core to Judaism. You know how many times the word Zion appears in the Bible? Do you know how many times it appears in our prayers? Do you know how many times Jerusalem appears in the Quran? Like 40 something times. It's ridiculous.
Israel's. You know how many times Palestine ends up in the Quran?
That's right, zero.
Zero.
It's ridiculous. So these guys, it's just. I feel like, if you're going to be anti-Jewish and you want to, disguise it, then don't be just own it.
Yeah,
don't say it. I hate Jews. Just say it.
Yeah, take your keffiyeh off of your face and show your pride for how much you hate Jewish people. I mean, if you really believed in what you are standing for, then you would show your face. It's like, what's the point of going there and just having a body on the ground? It's like, we have no idea who you are. We have no idea, if this cause is even valid, because you don't even believe in it, because you want to hide your face. Why do you want to hide your face? Because future employers might not hire you. Future girls might not give you pussy because you are covering your face and you're standing on the wrong side of history. I mean,
I think it's a little deeper than that. I think it's just deep shame. They know what they're doing is shameful. And honestly, that in a twisted kind of way, the Nazis drank themselves to sleep every night. They knew what they were doing was, immoral, and Hamas live streamed it. So when these guys put on masks, it actually gives me some hope that they have some sort of level of moral compass, that they know what they're doing is messed up, right? If they were proud of it, like Hamas was, and just live streamed it and showed it, and they didn't have any shame, that would worry me even more. But yeah, I mean, these people are completely morally bankrupt. There's no question about it. And I got to say something that, I don't know. I would imagine it's going to offend some of your viewers, but whatever. The reality is that, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that there is a fundamental problem with Islam. Just open the Quran. I mean, let me just read you a couple of verses in the Quran right now, like in real time. Okay. I got a couple of verses that I have kind of saved in my iPhone, screenshot here. Just read you a couple of things. We got Quran 191. Slay the unbelievers wherever you find them. 328. Muslims must not take the infidels as friends. 385. Any religion other than Islam is not acceptable. Terrorize and behead those who believe in scriptures other than the Quran. Muslims must muster all weapons to terrorize the infidels, and on and on. This is the Quran. So don't come at me and say, oh, it's not all Islam. Of course it's not all of Islam. Of course there are innocent Muslims. Of course there are. But there is a big problem with Islamic ideology. And of course it manifests in radical Islamists, but the reality is there's a problem, and they don't hide it. That's the thing. The irony of it all is they're like, guys, we don't want land. We want dead Jews. And when we kill all the Jews, we're coming after you, America. We want the West. And then the West, like idiots, are like, oh, they just want a state. They're like, we don't want a state. We want dead Jews. No, they just want a state. Would you listen to them? Just freaking listen to them. They're telling you what they want. Stop dictating to them what they want. They want dead Westerners. They want the West. They say it loud and clear. And who do we think we are? We're just pretentious, like, we know what you want better than you know. What the hell is that? Listen to what they're saying.
Right. And then the opposite is true when it comes to Israel and Jews. It's like Israel and Jews were saying, no, we want peace. We want peace. No, you don't. You're genocidal. We read Theodore Herzl. It's like, buddy, come on now. So it's like when they say chase every last Jew behind every last rock and tree, and when the last Jew is behind the last rock, slay that Jew. Believe them. I mean, when we talk about ideologies, and I mentioned, Haji Amin al-Husseini in the beginning, there was a famous quote that is documented, and the fact that most of these Palestinians or pro-Palestinians don't even know about this, which was the Arabs would have never stopped fighting until every last Jew was annihilated, and the state of Palestine was Arab only. Like, this is an embedded ideology. This goes past one line out of the 5 volumes of Herzl's diary, where he says that transfer was inevitable if the Arabs, couldn't play nice with the Jews eventually. So, and the fact that people twist, this ideology into thinking that the Zionists, were some great power force of terminators that just stormed into the land and, started knocking on doors with their guns, and kicking people out of their houses. It's the most twisted thing in the world, but yet the first ruler of the Palestinian people in al-Husseini, with that ideology, which was embedded in his people, and then it almost, went even deeper to, to spawn a religious upbringing, that this was the calling of Islam to, to slay the infidels, and that was the whole reason that the massacre of Hebron even started. So it's like to go one way off the deep end, that everything that Jews and Israel does is a lie and we really have genocidal intent, but yet the other side actually is displaying their genocidal intent and saying, oh okay, no, they just want peace, they just want land, you've just been oppressing them for 75 years. And it's a bit much. It's almost like, is there some place where I could jump headfirst and just land onto the concrete and just end it, because this is, getting ridiculous. And when you try to explain it to them, it's like they have no conception of what the actual truth is, and there's so much contention and discrepancy from their side because of these charlatans like Noam Chomsky, Finkelstein, Hill, and like, how do we How do we stop the propaganda war? And how do we convince them that, hey, listen, the things that you've learned are wrong? Like, why is there so much contention upon the Nakba?
Listen, I think you're asking the wrong question, my friend. This isn't a question of them, telling lies and how do we correct their lies. This isn't a pro-Palestinian thing. Let's
Justification
just
for hating Jews.
This is an anti-Jewish thing. It's not even an anti-Israel thing. It's an anti-Jewish thing. And so truth doesn't matter. It's not that they love Hamas. They just hate the Jews more, right? And
like Golda Meir said.
That mask, yeah, exactly. That mask has been lifted. So, I don't think we should waste our time trying to talk to these crazies and trying to convince them that what they're spreading is propaganda, because I bet you they know they're spreading propaganda, but it doesn't matter to them because truth is not a virtue when you have the ability to, to slander Jews at scale. And that's what they've dedicated their lives to doing.
Agreed. I could only, hope is really a dangerous thing, but and I'm going to use the word hope. I hope that the world kind of gets a hold of itself, because it looks like it's going to a scary place. But I wanted to talk about a couple of different areas of this conflict, and really it's to educate the people that, if they should debate or they should engage with the other side, the proper things, because we need to have. I remember watching one of your interviews, and I don't really like to do a ton of research on the people that I'm interviewing, because I like to get it firsthand, and I like to build, in an organic sense rather than trying to lead you where I'd like you to go. I'd rather it be organic. But I see that you place so much emphasis on the facts and how people need to get the facts straight. So when it comes to this term, illegal settlements of the West Bank, first, let's define what they mean by illegal settlements.
I mean, it's again, it's such a joke. It is such a joke. You have to understand, they call it the West Bank. This isn't just an empty phrase or words that don't mean anything. This is extremely calculated, because what it's really called is Judea and Samaria, not the West Bank. But why won't they call it Judea and Samaria? Think about it. Because the word Judea sounds awfully similar to the word Jew, because Jews come from Judea. And if they call it Judea and Samaria, they're basically negating their entire narrative, right? So first of all, let's just call it what it is, Judea and Samaria. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when we talk about quote unquote illegal settlements, dude, do you understand? By their definition, 15 minutes outside of Jerusalem in every direction are illegal settlements. Like every one of my brothers lives in an illegal settlement. Like we're talking like mid-Israel. Like give me a freaking break. And I'll tell you even more than that. These people in Gaza and Judea and Samaria that call themselves Palestinians, and I refuse to call them that because it's a fake made up term. They don't use the word illegal settlements. To them, all of Israel's an illegal settlement. To them, Tel Aviv's an illegal settlement. Occupation. Jerusalem's an illegal settlement. So let's stop dictating, what we think, quote unquote, the Western world thinks that the Palestinians want. Enough already. They've said it. They say it left and right. Dude, listen, anybody who's watching this who says that Israel occupied Gaza and that's what caused October 7th, let me give you a tip, all right? Open your freaking computer, put your hands on your keyboard and type Google, all right? Google, and then type disengagement and learn. Open Wikipedia, 2005, Israel physically removed 10,000 people of its own people from Gaza. We dug up the dead. Do you understand? We dug up dead bodies in Gaza because we knew that if we leave them there, we knew what the Palestinians would do to them. And we were right. We evacuated we literally ethnically cleansed Gaza. There was not one Jew in Gaza, not one. So what were they attacking October 7th for? We didn't occupy anything. We gave it to them. There was no fence. There was no nothing. There was no blockade. There was nothing. We said to them, here, make a state. You know what they did? They elected Hamas. And then we put a gate up, a fence, right? And then the world says, oh my God, why are you putting up a fence? And we put up the fence. They break the fence on October 7th. And the world's like, oh my God, you put them in a fence. Dude, like they attack us. They break the fence. We shouldn't have had a fence. We should have had a fence. Enough already. Like just stop with the lies. And if you are not on Israel's side in this war, there's only two options. There's no third player here. It's Israel or it's Hamas. If you're not with Israel, you are standing with Hamas, an organization full of rapists and pedophiles and people who burn families alive. There is no option C. You're either with Israel, you're with good, or you're with Hamas, evil. There's no option C. So if you don't have the moral clarity to understand that Israel is on the right side of history here, then you should go look for your moral compass, because there's something very, very wrong with your moral compass. You are confused. There's no other way to explain. I mean, confused if I'm being nice. Many people are obviously evil, but there are people out there who don't know.
I'll be not so nice. You guys are a bunch of fucking assholes. There we go.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, mine's more colorful. This way, they can understand, with the clarity. It's like fucking assholes. So that
I
this
mean,
way
there are
they
kids
got it.
watching, but sure.
Well, no, no, I'm gonna actually, make it so it's not, not for kids, so hopefully my cursing, doesn't throw them off. But while we're on the topic of, of the West Bank, and they call it the West Bank because it sits on the west bank of the Jordan River, and it's just another term to basically de-link, Jews from their ancestral homeland, just like the Romans did back in the third or fourth century, calling the land of Judea and Samaria to Syria Palestinia, which that's what and it doesn't come from the word Philistine, okay? It's Palestinia, okay? It's a completely different thing, and there's no F in the Muslim language, so that has to be translated as a P. So it's just another way to de-link us from the land. But if these settlements are so illegal, and this is an argument that I hear from the pro-Palestinian side, if these settlements are so illegal and all the NGOs and UN and everyone recognizes that these are illegal settlements and this is the occupied territory, technically, Palestine is a member of the ICJ or ICC. So if they do have jurisdiction in the so-called land of Palestine, then why has absolutely nothing been done to annex these illegal settlements in the occupied territory of the Palestinian people that has jurisdiction with the ICC and ICJ? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're nailing it. That's just one, like I said before, of hundreds of lies and just fabrications and hypocrisy, and in the long list of things that are just ridiculous in the whole entire Palestinian narrative. That's just one of them. I mean, go even deeper and ask, wait a second. So are the Palestinians a people? They're a people that deserve a state. That's what you're claiming, that they're a people. They're a nation. They deserve a state. Well, if they deserve a state, don't you think they should be held accountable for actually electing a terrorist organization and supporting the massacre of October 7th? Oh, no, no, no.
No,
They're,
no,
let's
let's
give
give
a
them a
bunch of kids.
state. Let's give them
Yeah,
a
but
state. No, 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 they did fine. They're good people.
Yeah, but again, but here, notice the hypocrisy, right? The same people who are saying they deserve a state are the same people who are saying they shouldn't be held accountable, right? They're like a bunch of kids throwing a tantrum. Are they kids or are they a people? If they're a people, they should be held accountable. And if they're a bunch of kids, they don't deserve a state. Make up your mind.
Didn't we kill all the kids already? Like,
let me ask you
I
this.
watched the death count up like 187,000,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's all
Dude, why
children,
stop at 1,000?
all women children.
180 million. Just go with a million. It sounds better, dude. Like, seriously now,
Agreed.
what was Gaza on October 6th? Was it paradise or was it an open air prison? Make up your mind, because for years we were told it's an open air prison. Okay, great. And now that we've retaliated and done what we've done in Gaza, now it was paradise before October 7th. Make up your mind. The list of lies is just endless. It's just, and the world, like a bunch of, you can complete that sentence, just takes it and swallows it and eats it and regurgitates it and distributes it. And it's like, do you work for Hamas? Like, what the actual hell? It's crazy.
My favorite one is the people that that call for the stop the genocide and ceasefire, and at the same time globalize the Intifada.
Again, the list is long, my friend. We could go on for hours.
The that one, and my other favorite one is Israel is an apartheid state, and there are so many one lines that just shatter their arguments on their side. It's like, and and we'll jump to a different topic after this, but it's like, okay, if the Jews accepted partition in 47, which is basically 500,000 Jews and 400,000 Arabs, so if they agreed to that, where is this exclusivity of Jewish state? Where is this apartheid where Jews have all the rights and Arabs don't? Where is this genocidal, intention? Like, what are they going to do? Let's agree to a state and then we'll kill them. Let's agree to a state and then we'll push them out. So, yeah, I find a lot of the hypocrisy almost laughable at times, but it's such a non-laughing matter because these are real lives, that are being affected. And yesterday I went to the October 7th play for the Nova exhibit, and it was phenomenal, but gut wrenching at the same time. I mean, I found myself, in tears, basically 9 or 10 different times, putting myself in their shoes. And I thank God, that I do live in America where, I'm supposed to feel safe. But there was something that you said in one of your interviews that you said, I feel bad for all the Jews that are not in Israel, because Everyone that goes to Israel says that they feel safer in Israel amongst all the missiles and everything, as opposed to places like New York, where shit is getting a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, don't misunderstand. I'm not belittling the loss. My brother was murdered by a terrorist. I know loss, I know grief, but we also have to take a historical perspective here, and we have to realize that our protection and our safety in Israel is in our own hands. Whereas in America, if I'm a Jew, we see what no one cares, right? The police doesn't care, the government doesn't care, no one cares. So that is not going to end well. It's never ended well. Open a history book, dude. If history repeats itself and you want to know what's going to happen, look at a history book. You know what's going to happen. So in Israel, while we had October 7th, while there are terrorists, and we're far from perfect here, how and when we retaliate is in our hands. We have an army that has one objective, and that is to protect me and you, to make sure that we are safe. Who's doing that for you out of Israel? No one. So yeah, right now you seem like, not you, but I'm saying Jewry outside of Israel, they're comfortable, you're good. Great. I'm not saying they have to pick up and leave right now, but as I've written many times, they definitely need to have an exit strategy.
I agree. I agree, because not too many people. Like, I mean, we have 15 million Jews in the world today, and not all of them are up for the fight, and not all of them are even on our side. I hear this argument from the other side that, oh, there are a large number of Jews that are in the encampments that are actually holding seders and protesting with us. What do you have to say to those Jews? And let me just say, for context, those are not our Jews. They should have their Jewish card absolutely revoked. They should never be allowed to wear a kippah ever again in their life.
First of all, let's just be clear here. Many of them are actually not Jewish. Many of those people, they call themselves cultural Jews. Maybe their father's Jewish, but they are legally, by Jewish law, not actually Jewish. The fact that they're wearing, a Jewish garment or a kippah on their head does not make them Jewish. Let's just say that. But again, we have to look at history. There have always been Jews who sided with the enemy. Always, in every single conflict, in every round of anti-Semitism, we had the Jews who sided with the enemy, who said, "Oh, if I can, if I just join the Nazis and kill other Jews, then they're going to love me." It doesn't work. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew, and Hitler did not care. If you're an unaffiliated Jew, if you're an assimilated Jew, he didn't care. If you come from Jewish descent, if your mother's Jewish and your grandmother, he will kill you. Period. Full stop. And it's pathetic that Hitler knows it and we don't know it. And so these people that think they're going to side with the enemy in these encampments, trust me, just look at history. Hitler would have killed them. The pro-Palestinian crowd will kill them when they get the chance. It doesn't work. You can't appease the enemy. You could try and you'll fail. So these people who, are backstabbing their own nation are the worst of the worst. From my perspective, these people are full-blown traitors, and history will remember them as such.
I agree. I agree. And I want there to be some sort of like national database that kind of almost like outs them. It's like, I feel like their future employers should know when they Google that person's name. Oh, you took part in the UCLA encampments on the pro-Palestinian side. Yeah, maybe it's not somebody we want to have, working for our firm anymore. Or when, you're looking to court a young female and her parents actually like Google you and they say, wait a second, this fucking schmuck was part of the encampments and shouting, death to Islam. All right, baby, I'm sorry. That cannot be your boyfriend. That's it. I feel like there should be some sort of national database that kind of exposes them. And yeah, I'm from the hip hop industry where, quote unquote, ratting is, looked down upon. But you know what? Fuck that. This is about protecting the Jewish people's lives outside of the diaspora. We have barely been out of it for about 100 years, and it's time that we live our lives. And there's a lot of Jews that are not up for the fight. I am, and I feel like something does need to be done about that, because we're an endangered species. I mean, you hold up any other marginalized community in a sign saying, bring back Jim Crow laws, or, death to all the LGBTQ, like, you will literally be erased and canceled quicker than fucking anything. But when it comes to the Jews, there's this sweet spot. There's this hard on for the Jews for God knows how long. And it's like, I don't know if it's because it's easy, because we let them, because we don't, fight back immediately. Like when someone says something, we don't just fucking crack them in their face. We have a moral compass and we say, all right, let's figure out why it is that you don't like us. So it's very, very frustrating. So it's like, I look to a lot of the scholars and academics of yesteryear who have experienced a lot of the stuff that we're experiencing now and seeing how they dealt with it, although it was a very, very different time because history does and will always repeat itself. And I feel like we're at a place where every single thing has been tried and there's not really much wiggle room for any solution moving forward. What does the solution look like, or what of portions? Because nobody has the full answer, or obviously it would be done already. What are some non-negotiables from both sides in order to achieve some sort of peaceful solution? And I say that very loosely because peaceful, who knows?
For starters, I object fundamentally to the phrase both sides, because both sides implies equality, an equal sign. There's no two sides here. Okay, there's good and there's evil. All right, let's not put them in the same sentence. Let's just establish that first of all. Second of all, the Jewish people, right, throughout our history, literally dates back to the Bible, are all about peace. Right, we pray about peace hundreds of times every day. We're all about peace, right? Not in we're the peaceful religion, but in a very real way. What we've done to accomplish or to achieve peace in the region is unprecedented. And the other side does not want peace. They want dead Jews. So, how do you make peace with someone who wants you dead, right? So, for there to be any discussion, realistic discussion about peace, we need to, look at the next generation of the people that call themselves Palestinians, and we need to, cancel the indoctrination of their textbooks and of everything that they're learning from age 0, that Jews are pigs and they deserve to die. There's no negotiating and there's no discussing anything with the people who believe that. And so when people talk about poor Palestinian kids being killed, dude, a Palestinian kid murdered my brother. All right, let's talk about it. The Palestinian kids that we like to call kids are terrorists. Not all of them. Not all of them. So of course, innocent people die in war, and that's tragic. But the Palestinian people as a people elected Hamas. All right. So don't come at me and say Palestinian kids and women. These women are celebrating their kids' death and calling them shahidim. Like, come on already. Enough with the lies. Enough with fake narratives. It's ridiculous already. So, there's no realistic discussion about peace in the region until this indoctrination ends, and until we have a person or a people on the other side of the table who can just say the following sentence. This is all I want from them. Just say Israel has a right to exist. Just say that. You can't even say that because not one Palestinian leader believes that. So how do you make peace with someone who doesn't think you have a right to exist? So the discussion of a two-state solution and a potential peace, it's an absolute joke, and it is completely unrealistic, and there's not going to be peace anytime in the near future until the Palestinian culture and society has been transformed fundamentally from the ground up.
I agree. The one thing that I run into a brick wall with is all the dead Palestinian children, but yet we see videos on Telegram and on memory, of this is what they want. They want their children to die, of being a martyr. And I guess it's the only reason that they're mad is that the building fell on the child, as opposed to the child growing up and being able to go and take down a building of his own and kill Jews. It's like the reason that they're mad is because they didn't get to be martyred in the way that they want, but yet it's achieving the same purpose. So I feel like to celebrate your child wanting to be a martyr versus your child, becoming unalived by a tragedy in war and becoming collateral damage, I feel like the hypocrisy just goes right off the fucking map. So it's like, are we supposed to, care about the innocent civilians that wanted to be bred in order to create martyrdom in the first place? Or are we supposed to just say, okay, Israel is just completely unjust and they're barbaric and they just deliberately kill, women and children. They don't even, aim for male, combatants or for combatants, period. They just see a civilian and want them dead.
How many innocent people died in World War II?
Well, a lot, millions and millions.
Millions of Germans were innocent. Why? Because that's war. Does that mean does that mean that the Allies attacking Nazi Germany wasn't justified because innocent people died? Ridiculous. No one would say that World War II wasn't justified. So, the whole discussion about how many this is war. Israel did not want war. Israel was forced into this war, and there are innocents who are dying because that's war. Furthermore, that is their strategy. For every dead person for Israel is a tragedy. For the Palestinians and for Hamas, it is a strategy. This is what they need. They need dead people so that people like me and you could talk about how many dead people there are. This is their strategy. And we fall into it and they feed it to us where they're like, We're their puppets, not we, but the Western media and the West. It's ridiculous. They depend on dead bodies. Stop giving them incentive to use dead people, innocent people, as human shields, which then leads to deaths. This is what they're doing, and we're reading these casualty numbers, and we're just taking them because Hamas said so. It's ridiculous. These are rapists and pedophiles. They lie. Stop letting them feed you.
That Hamas said so. The Gaza Ministry of Health is Hamas. When Hamas gives you numbers, are you really going to believe them? Why? And even if we did believe them, according to international humanitarian law, there's a humane ratio of 9-1 when it comes to civilians to combatants. For context, when we went to Afghanistan, America, when America went to Afghanistan, we killed 196,000 people in total. The vast majority of those were civilians. It was at a 4.5-1 body count. And it's not a body count that determines genocide, or else America will be charged with genocide. When we dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, we would be charged with genocide according to international, humanitarian law standards. But the fact that Israel has kept a ratio of almost less than 2-1 at Hamas's numbers, it's 1-1 realistic numbers, but we have to go with according to what is on the books right now, even though they walk back half of their body count, with the deaths of women and children. The world needs to wake up and stop using these buzzwords in every sentence. The genocidal regime of Israel. It's not a regime. It's a democracy. It's a fucking army. Okay. We have to stop using the word, colonization and imperialism and settlers and all of these buzzwords in every single debate, in every single conversation is damaging. Words are so fucking important. And that's where people lose sight of everything. It's like we have to hang on to every last word because it's our fucking survival that's at stake. And if you're not saying something that is clear and concise, we have to call it out.
I mean, in Europe, it was get out of Europe, Jews, go to Palestine. And now it's get out of Palestine, Jews, go to Europe. It's just, again, hatred of Jews is the oldest hatred in the world. And it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how much foreign aid we send into Gaza. None of it matters. They're going to hate us. And if it's not this excuse, it's a different excuse. We need to stop paying attention to what the world's telling us to do. We need to do what we need to do to protect ourselves, because when we depended on the world to protect us, we saw how that ended.
Agreed. What do you think of Israel's response after October 7th? Like from the following days after, as far as how they acted as far as PR, and then how they acted as far as boots on the ground.
I think we should have been infinitely more aggressive. Infinitely. I think we should have immediately opened, declared war, which we did, and we should not have, waited. We should not have listened to Biden about Rafah. We should have done what we need to do. And whoever doesn't get on board, sit this one out. But we're not listening to you. We need to, protect our people. The fact that there are 100,000 people who are displaced in the north is a travesty. It's a travesty. Now, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors and why we're not going to war with Hezbollah. And not to say that war with Hezbollah is going to be pleasant, but I mean, I don't know what's going on right now. I don't understand how we're allowing what's happening to happen. But I don't think our response has or is nearly as aggressive as it should be. From a PR perspective, at the end of the day, listen, number one, they outnumber us 1,000-1, but that's not the issue. The issue is that they have a very simplistic narrative, which is you're oppressing us, free Palestine. Now, is it true? It doesn't matter if it's true, because we're in a post-truth world, and no one cares about truth. The problem is that Israel has to stick to truth. So we can't just make, lies up. And so our narrative is always going to be less sexy because it's true.
It's the truth.
Right? So, the problem is that we have no narrative, and what we do have is completely fragmented. And so it's a problem. It's a real problem, and we're getting obliterated in the digital battlefield. But I'd take that over lying any day of the week.
I mean, to fight an army or a people or an ideology that has no moral compass, when you have to have a moral compass, is like going into the boxing ring with Tyson, with both hands tied behind your back, and saying, please, Mr. Tyson, don't hit me. It's like, and so that's how I feel like the IDF has to operate, with their hands tied behind its back. And some of the messaging from the administration over here is so wish-washy and flip-flop that it's like, bro, do you even care about the Jews that live in America? Because everything that you say is harmful. It's giving them ammunition and fuel for their, for all of their protests that have just just sprung out of control. And now it's getting to the point where there's violence at every single protest. We don't have the numbers to really make a difference at all, even in New York, where the largest concentration of Jews are. But the problem is we have jobs. We work. We don't have, the luxury of just going out on the street and protesting for 8 hours when we have to, go out and feed our family. And that's not an excuse. That's like, okay, what are we protesting for? Or like, we know that we're not going to accomplish, anything. I mean, they've been saying free Palestine for Palestine free yet? Yeah, no, not yet. So, what would we be protesting for, other than, end the Jew hatred, and we have thicker skin than most, but the reason why we're losing that PR war is because we have a moral compass, and we know that parading out on the street and blocking traffic and, setting up encampments is not the way to get anything done. So
yeah,
what do we do?
But if you look, just to give one example, right? If you look at the whole, free the hostages, right? Like, why are we, it should be let my people go. Like, it's not on us. Hamas, let my people go. This isn't free. It's not on us to get our hostages. Yeah, we're going to apply military pressure, but why is the world not calling on Hamas to release the hostages? That's just one example of a narrative that was formed by whoever it was formed by. That is just, it's just wrong. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, free the whose responsibility is to get these hostages back? It's our responsibility. No, let my people go. Let them go, Hamas. Like, the fact that everyone's to free the hostages, that is not the right narrative, in my opinion.
So what is the right narrative? So you say the phrase "free the hostages" is the wrong narrative, or
Yeah,
it
because
should be
free the hostages implies that it's on us.
so "let my people go" implies that the emphasis and the accountability is on Hamas. Okay,
I
so
don't
I got it.
understand why every single person in the West, instead of focusing and obsessing on Israel, is not pressuring Qatar to pressure Hamas to let the hostages go. Why is no one pressuring Hamas to let the hostages go? It is mind-boggling. Where the hell is that pressure?
I've been saying since day one, I'm in the entertainment industry. I do a lot of traveling. I'd like to think that if I was overseas and I was performing and I got kidnapped, the US government would do everything in its power to get, I mean, I know I'm not that important, but I'd like to think that they would at least put some form of effort. And the fact that I haven't, and I will call it out, and I've never done this before because I never like to pick sides or go into politics like that. But the fact that Joe Biden did not stand up on October 8th and say, look, you took American hostages. Washington, we're the largest donor to Palestine at $343 million every single year. You better release those hostages in 24 hours or else.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
that is a non-negotiable for me. Like, I
And
can't
Israel should have said, we're giving you 24, 48 hours. We have all our hostages back, or Gaza's wiped out. Like, just literally, boom. It's a football field, right?
One gigantic piece of glass.
Yeah, and then, if and when they don't return the hostages, and the result is the result, and the world can't come to us with claims. We literally said, give our hostages back, or this is what will happen, and it happened. Don't come to us. Go to Hamas and explain to them that we need our hostages back. End of story. So, like, again, there's so many twisted, like, narratives and lies being told here, and the reality is, if anyone doesn't see clearly that Israel's on the right side here and Hamas is the evil side, then there's something very wrong with their moral compass. Period.
And it seems to be a lot of them, because I've lost thousands of followers, thousands of people that I thought were my friends and my homies, and people that I've even saved their fucking lives, like actually saved their lives. All of a sudden, I'm like, you unfollowed me? You like me? I know how Julius Caesar felt, when he got stabbed. It's like, et tu, Brute? You, like, how are you going to do this to me? But I do appreciate, all the time that you've taken with me, and I know that you have, a larger fight, on your hands with, with your platform, in getting the right information out there. And me, I'm just one, small, podcast that I really value and honor the time that you have given me, as well as the insight that you've given me today, because it was, in a word, necessary, very, very necessary to understanding this battle that we're in. And I try and look at it from an objective point of view, even though it's a completely irrational scenario. And voices like yours need to be elevated and heightened to, you know, to the largest proportions possible, because when it's clear and it's concise and you have a stake in the game and you have real hands-on experience, and obviously, you know, because of what happened to your family and your brother, my condolences, you know, you've been hit by tragedies firsthand. It's like there's a reason to listen, you know, to people like you, not because, you know, you're trying to sway people the right way. It's because facts and words are important, and if you don't put an emphasis and a value on them, then you lose sight of the very core of or fabric that reality actually is. And it seems like we're twisting, you know, down the down the toilet bowl of shittiness when it comes to how we're being perceived. So I really appreciate a voice like yours, kind of, you know, leveling the playing field and giving people that don't really have a voice a chance to kind of be in the know. So this way, if they're ever in that
I just
opportunity,
want to leave your viewers and listeners with two quick sentences, and that is, number one, we will dance again, because, you know, Jewish history is full of holidays of events where we were supposed to be annihilated, whether it was Purim, Passover, Hanukkah, whatever it is, and we celebrate today. So we will dance again. That's number one. Number two, the words Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people live, that's not an empty phrase. That's a historical reality. Okay, go look at ancient Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Nazi Empire, the Soviet Empire. Every empire that came after the Jews is extinct, and we're here. So Am Yisrael Chai is not just a phrase, it's a historical reality. We will be here. Hamas will be no more. Hezbollah will be no more. The evil Iranian regime will be no more. And the Jews will continue to be here and flourish like we've always done. And Am Yisrael Chai, my friends.
I'm Israel Chai. That was absolutely perfect. What I'd like to do is I'd like to leave you with a quote that I attribute to my life. I'd like you to attribute to yours, as well as everybody that's listening. I'd like you to attribute this to your life. We're all just here for a small cup of coffee. I'm just trying to drink it while it's still hot. I am your boy. I am Joe Paul. This has been the Verified Podcast. We have just had a very enlightening discussion with Mr. Hillel. Please follow him on Instagram. We'd like to thank I Am That Jew, my buddy Etan. I need more shirts, especially with different color, because I'm getting fat and I need to hide my stomach. But you enjoy your day. Thank you so much for your time. If there's anything that I could do for you in the future, please let me know. And I'm Israel Khan, my friend.
Thanks a lot, man.